So EdChoice, could you just maybe real quick introduce your organization and what you focus on?
Absolutely. So EdChoice is the legacy of Milton and Rose Friedman. We were originally the Milton and Rose V. Friedman Foundation and changed our name in 2016. We are the nation's leading advocate for universal school choice. So our job is very simple. Implement Milton Friedman's idea of universal choice for everyone. That means we want all dollars to follow all kids to all learning opportunities. And we do that through research, training, and advocacy.
Awesome, perfect. All right, so here we are in 2024 now. Can you describe the school choice landscape kind of nationally? Like where do we stand?
So I've been describing it this way last year. So 2010 and 11 was the year of school choice, right? We had these incredible growth of school choice. And then we had the year of ESAs, which was 2020. And then we had the year of universal choice, which was 2023. And so since 2011 to 2023, we've grown this concept of choice just being for some kids to being for all kids. And this has been huge. We now have 10 states that have universal choice. That's 36% of all American children are now eligible to go to a private school that suits their needs or get an education that suits their needs. Now that's great. There are lots of challenges with that, but that's also fantastic. So we're excited that North Carolina is one of those states. They were the last state to join the fold in 2023, but we're excited that we now have 10 full states that have universal choice. Well, partial universal choice. Let's talk what we mean by that. Yeah. There are three things that define universal choice, and I think sometimes we get stuck on the first one. And the first one is universal eligibility. Everyone can choose. That's great. The second thing, though, is universal access. It can't just be everyone can choose something. They need to be able to choose everything, not just a school. They should be able to choose any kind of learning environment works best for them. And then they need universal funding. You can't just like say, hey, I'm going to shortchange you. Here's $5,000 while I give someone else $12,000. And so there's a conversation about universal eligibility, universal access, and universal funding. I'd say in my home state of Indianapolis, why is a third grader in the Indianapolis public schools, right, get $15,000? That same third grader gets $8,000 or $9,000 to go to a charter school, and that same third grader gets $6,000 to go to a private school. Why is that child worth $9,000 less? It seems unfair. So universal eligibility, universal access, and universal funding.
That's great, awesome. So North Carolina, could you talk a little bit about? So we're kind of latecomers.
Well, you're not. I mean, so North Carolina was one of the earlier in the fold. So 2005 and 6, and we started working here. And then you guys ended up with a special needs program, and then the Opportunity Scholarship Program. And that program has grown over time until last year, the legislature, even against the governor who was saying, this is going to kill the world, and obviously it's not the case, because the choice is good. But even against the opposition of a governor, your legislature decided to say, we're going to expand the Opportunity Scholarship Program and make it universal. Now what they did is they said everyone can choose, but they didn't quite make it universal funding. They said, well, if you're poor, you get this, and if you, they created a whole bunch of categories for who can get funding and who can't. So it's a great step along the way. There's always a lot more to do.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you about then is implementation. So there's been all this progress made. How is it implemented? How is it rolled out?
So I've been saying this for 25 years of my life, we've been fighting for the tip of the iceberg, which is just to get universal eligibility, and we got that. And then all of a sudden we're realizing that the entirety of the iceberg is underneath the water. And so the fact that we passed universal choice is great, but if we implement it poorly, like has been going on around the country, we're destined to fail. And so passing the bill is important, but it's 10% of the work. 90% of the work is implementing it with fidelity, and there are real problems because we're trying to really change the nature of the system. We're not trying to just simply have schools that look the same, right? This is what we have already in America. If you look at private and charter and public schools, there really isn't a lot of difference between how they actually deliver education. It's still in front of a classroom, it's still with desks, it's still with, instead of a chalkboard, it's a whiteboard, or maybe it has some classes that are outside, but it's really not that different. And so we have to think about implementation as really thinking about how do we want to implement the system of choice and opportunities that we really think will get us to the next level. And we're not doing it very well around the country right now.
So what are some of those struggles, like specifically?
Well, you got to make it easier for parents.
Right.
The first thing, and the first and foremost thing is you must make it easy for parents, right? So there are states that are saying, well, we want to make parents do a little bit more work. We got to make them sign up a little bit more. They're not getting reimbursed fast enough. So how is a parent to know if it's going to work or not work when they put their money on a credit card? Are they going to get their money back? Or are they not going to get their money back? So there's a lot of conversations about making it easy for parents and making it easy for them to get their resources back, and then making it easy for them to figure out what to choose. Perfect example. Is it okay for a parent to buy, they want to send their child to a woodworking course, which is an amazing idea. I mean, woodworking gets you a lot of money nowadays if you actually get a skill traded. So should a parent be allowed to buy a saw for their child? How does that work, right? If you're doing an education thing, you've got to have these conversations, but you've got to make it easy. The second thing is no one is doing vendor on those. So you have all these vendors who want to join, right? And it's not just about schools. It's kind of easy to get a private school in the program. It's a private school, everyone knows it. But how do you engage a group called, that wants to start Woodworking Inc., right? Whose entire job is to create woodworking courses and woodworking certifications. Getting them onboarded is really important. It's got to be easy for them. So it can't be hard for them to join the program. It can't be hard for them to get reimbursed. It can't be hard for them to access the funds and connect with the parents, right? So there's both the parent side, then there's the vendor side, right? And all of those are having challenges right now. And the real challenge is because I think middlemen, the people who are doing the implementation of these programs, these third-party vendors, some of them are putting their thumb on the scale, right? And so in the world of an online broker, right, let's just think about it this way, E-Trade, you go to E-Trade, you set up an account, and E-Trade doesn't tell you what to buy. It doesn't tell you what stocks to purchase. It doesn't tell you to push Vanguard over Schwab. You just get to go in there and do that. But what's happening in some states is the vendor, the E-Trade of it all, is saying, well, we don't want you to we have to wait 90 days before you can get this approved, right? And on the way to getting approved, you have to show me why people will like to buy your service. Yeah. And so there's a real problem with how the third-party implementation is going on, and we've got to make it easier. So we have to use AI. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we're not doing. But every other online platform has figured it out, so I'm sure we can too.
Well, Robert, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Again, good luck in North Carolina. I think we're on the way, and you got a long way to go.